Again. Thank you so much, everyone, for having us. My name is Aarin Edwards, and I'm the director of the CalWorks program at Glendale Community College in Los Angeles. But I'm also the president of the California Community Colleges CalWorks Association.
Good morning. My name is Christina Dauber, and I am the counselor coordinator for the CalWorks program at Palomar Community College, which is in North San Diego County. And I'm also the Region 10 board member for the CalWorks Association. Thank you for having us.
So we thought we'd start with just a quick rundown of what we wanted to cover today. We'll talk about CalWorks first and explain what CalWorks is. We'll tell you a little bit of data about CalWorks students and about parenting students in general in California's community colleges. We'll talk about challenges for our students. They'll probably sound familiar to you, but some of them might be new. And then we'll talk about some solutions as we see them. So first of all, what is CalWorks? Well, CalWorks is the name of the TANF, or Public Welfare Program, for parents with children under 18 in California. So TANF is the name of the federal program that is the public assistance program for families with children under 18. And each state in the United States kind of brands its own TANF program and gives it a name. And so in California, the name of the TANF program is just called CalWorks. But the confusing thing is that CalWorks is also the name given to the program in every community college in California that serves CalWorks students. So CalWorks is a program at every community college, and we are here to support and encourage and help and advise low-income parenting students at our college. CalWorks programs are categorically funded programs through the Chancellor's Office. So they're exactly like EOPS, DSPS, student equity, the same concept, except that CalWorks programs are also unique because CalWorks students and CalWorks programs straddle both the higher education and the TANF welfare system. So our students need to follow the rules of our colleges, but they also need to follow the rules for parenting CalWorks students that are set by federal and state welfare policy. The CalWorks Association, we're a very small volunteer-led nonprofit, and we support CalWorks students and CalWorks programs across the state. Our mission is supporting parenting students who are changing their own lives 2 generations at a time. And it was our students who helped us write this mission statement. And our vision statement is a California where families are economically and socially empowered through education. Our strategic goals for 2021 are to bring parenting students into the equity conversation in California. That's why Christina and I came here today. Sorry. Title IX protections for pregnant and parenting students. We're sparking a lasting and important student-parent movement in California, and we want to build a foundation for more support for CalWorks students to transfer and more support for students after they transfer. Continue training conversations and policy action on social justice, anti-racism, and LGBTQ+ rights, and to, of course, to strengthen our connection and services to our members. Christina.
All right, so I hate to have a slide with so much text on it, so I apologize, but at the same time, these are really important statistics to give you a clear idea of the student population that we're speaking to today. So I'm going to start with the left column. I forgot that Aaron and I moved this around. So the left column is just general parenting college student data. So this was taken from the Hope Center, and that name might be familiar to you because each year they release a real college survey that provides really important statistics about the demographics of students attending college and four-year institutions. So 1 in 5 college students is parenting a child, And keep in mind that while that's a significant number, it's probably much higher for the community college system because that particular report looked at community colleges, but it also included four-year institutions. And as we know, community colleges serve more non-traditional students. And that number may also be low because this data was taken from financial aid data, and not all student parents qualify for financial aid. Some of the common reasons they may not qualify is because of not meeting satisfactory academic progress or being undocumented. So that statistic isn't really capturing the whole picture. But even still, from that data, they found that 53% of parenting college students were food insecure in the last 30 days. 68% of parenting college students were housing insecure in the previous year, and 17% of parenting students were homeless in the previous year. So these are pretty staggering statistics. Now, if we look at CalWorks students specifically, so as Aarin shared earlier, these are students who are living in poverty and they are participating in their respective counties' welfare to work program. So for that particular student subpopulation, it's 18,213 students across the state. So it's a significant number. Of those, 82.3% are women and 71.69 are students who have identified as BIPOC, which means Black, Indigenous, and people of color. If you look there, the majority of students in the program are between the age of 25 and 34. So they're more of a returning college student age group. We don't serve as many younger students. And this information on the top was taken from the Chancellor's Office Data Mart, and they don't collect information on single parents. So for that second part of it, that was actually taken from Health and Human Services, an annual report that they release. So CalWorks participants as a whole, 83.8% are single parent households. And I put the amount that they're living on because I think that's really important. I think a lot of people have a very skewed perception of welfare and assume that participants are receiving much more money than they are. So the average monthly earning for cash aid is $1,130. So that means these student parents are trying to sustain themselves and their children on an average of $1,130 in the state of California, which we all know, regardless of the city, that's practically impossible. Also, a really important figure to consider is 67% of participants coming into the CalWorks program were referred to mental health and or domestic abuse supportive services. So how it works is if a participant comes in and they're already in an education program, then they're going to continue with that assigned program, which is education in the community college system or at a four-year institution. But if at the time they come in, they feel that they're not able to go directly into an educational or career-related program, or they're not in one already, then they'll refer them to mental health or domestic abuse supportive services. That's another number that I feel, even though it's high, doesn't really reflect the accuracy of the mental health topic for this population. And the reason why, actually, it's twofold. So one, if you think about it, and you put yourself in the position of a participant coming in, requesting cash assistance, you know that Child Protective Services is right down the hall. So are you really going to communicate to a county worker that you're struggling to get out of bed each morning and you're having a difficult time caring for your child? You're probably not going to do that. So I would argue that number is probably much higher. And in addition to that, even though a student is able to participate in a work-related activity or go to school, or they're already in school, that's not to say that they're not still struggling with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, a lot of these other mental health issues. And if we look at the data that's out there for students in college, we see that that number is on the rise. And then that last piece, while about half of women earn a degree within 6 years of enrolling in college, only 8% of single mothers earn a degree in the same time frame. That's pretty alarming because this is not a crisis that impacts a single generation. It is a generational issue that has far-reaching consequences, because if we look at chronic poverty in children, that lends to teen pregnancy, that lends to academic underperformance, that lends to mental health issues. And so if these women aren't matriculating, if they're not graduating, and their children remain in poverty, there's some pretty negative outcomes that are associated with that. So it's really important as we move forward that we don't just look at the student alone, but we look at the entire family and the impact that a lot of these practices and policies have on the entire family.
Thank you, Christina. So we talk about DI groups a lot, but we're not used to thinking of parenting students as a DI group, but in fact they are. Only 37% of parenting students complete a degree or certificate within 6 years, compared with 59% of students without children. That's a huge gap. And again, this comes from the Hope Center. So this is national data that's based on research that they've done. And Christina just said it, but it's worth repeating because it's an alarming statistic. About half of women earn a degree within 6 years of enrolling in college, but only 8% of single mothers earn a degree in the same time frame. We can trace this statistic right up to the wage gap for women in California. So there's a lot at stake. Also, we cannot understand the full picture for our Indigenous, American Indian, Black, and Latinx students until we overlay their identities as parents, and we don't do that often enough. This is from the Hope Center. Students from minoritized backgrounds are more likely to be parenting while in college. 22% of Black students and 17% of Hispanic or Latinx students were parenting, compared with 15% of white students. When considering the intersection of race and gender, we find that Black female-identified students are particularly likely to be parenting in college. 29% of Black females at two-year colleges were parenting students. So as we talk about redesigning America's community colleges to bring more equity to this system, we need to talk about how to design curriculums and colleges and systems so that they actually work for parenting students. This was a recent report that just came out a couple of weeks ago, and it was about California FAFSA community college students. And they found that nearly 1 in 10 students in California community college is a parent who applied for financial aid. While in community college, student parents' educational experiences differ from their non-parenting peers. There's a greater need for financial aid than with non-parenting students. They attempted and accumulated fewer credits per term. They have slightly higher GPAs than non-parents in their first year, and they're less likely to enroll full-time, persist from year to year, and to earn a degree or certificate. Christina.
All right, so when we talk about innovative practices and ways to better support these students, we really need to put mental health at the forefront because, as I shared earlier, research demonstrates that with this student population, there are very high rates of depression, anxiety, chronic stress disorder, post-traumatic stress. So some of what we're doing across the state is the following. One is emotion-based support groups, which we found really beneficial for students. It's a place where they can connect with each other, they can feel validated, and hearing that other students are experiencing very similar circumstances. And I put a quote there from one of my students. Hearing her story made me feel better. Not that she was in anguish, but that she was struggling with being a mom and being a student, and that the tug of war I was experiencing was real. And I just found that so powerful. I conducted a study a couple years ago where I was looking at common experiences for CalWork students, specifically single mothers who identified as BIPOC. And one of the reoccurring emotions associated with experiences they were having was shame. So due to welfare stigma, they were feeling a lot of shame for participating in the system. And I want to share a quote with you by Brene Brown because I think it's so powerful. If we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. And that's why it's so important that we provide these support groups to the students. In addition to that, individualized therapy is also critical. These students are coming in with so much trauma. There's substance abuse, there's incarceration, there's intimate partner violence. Something that we haven't talked about yet is a lot of these CalWorks programs across the state serve very big populations of student refugees. So they're also coming in from these war-torn countries, having experienced political violence, having lost family members. So it's really important that they're getting adequate behavioral health therapy. Now, not all of the community colleges offer this, but if they do, it's really important that we're making those connections and giving that warm handoff so that the students, in addition to having the support groups, also have the individualized therapy. In addition to that, we've also been providing across the state self-care activities for students, primarily through workshops. Right now with the pandemic, that is paramount because a lot of our students have their children at home and they're feeling stressed and overwhelmed and burnt out. So it's really important that we're providing them with a space where they can learn successful self-care and coping strategies. In addition to that, like I said before, it's just so important that we look at these students holistically. They aren't just students, but they're parents. And when we consider what they've been through, we have to remember that their children have also been through a lot of those traumas. And so providing parenting workshops that are trauma-informed, care-focused, so that these parents can support their children. Because as we know, for the parents who are on this Zoom today, if your kids aren't well, you're not well. And so you're not going to be able to concentrate in class and focus on your studies if your child is struggling emotionally. We've also been really focusing on trying to promote CalWorks student clubs. A new one this year is an LGBTQ+ club, which I'm very excited about because it provides that safe space, that sense of belonging, that connection for a subpopulation within CalWorks that is incredibly marginalized. And Aaron's going to talk about this a little bit more later. And then also we developed this year a group called SPARC, which is Student Parents Are Reimagining CalWorks. And when we talk about a human-centered approach, I think about this woman who spoke to our region at a meeting a couple weeks ago. She was the director of the National Muslim Association, and she works on promoting services for refugees. And she said, and I feel like it's so powerful, if you're looking for a solution, the people who hold that solution are those closest to the pain. And so we recognize that our CalWorks students, they have the solutions. You know, these are students who are incredibly resilient. They have grit, they're resourceful, they're imaginative, and who better to inform the development of practices and policy reform than the students themselves.
So a little bit more about Project SPARC. It's the first grant proposal the CalWorks Association has ever written, and we were funded by the Blue Shield of California Foundation. They gave us $207,000 to spend over 2 years on Project SPARC. And it's the intention is to spark and support a lasting student-parent movement through human-centered design. CalWorks students from every community college in California will come together to transform the landscapes of both welfare and community college. And the great thing about this is the Chancellor's office has been a wonderful partner, and they have approved that the CalWorks students who are working in Project SPARC to redesign CalWorks will be eligible to be paid as student workers. One of the reasons that CalWorks students tend to be marginalized in college is because their time is very valuable and they have a lot of responsibility. And so if we want them to participate in governance, in redesign, in making our colleges more student-centered, we need to value their time and pay them. So that was a big win. A little bit about Title IX. Did you know, everyone knows Title IX, but did you know it protects students who are pregnant, parenting, or have terminated a pregnancy? Title IX guarantees excused absences and the opportunity to make up all missed work. Is your college in compliance with Title IX protections? The answer is probably not. So it's one of our big goals this year to spread the word about Title IX and encourage community colleges to include this in their Canvas shells, update their administrative regulations to reflect Title IX protections for pregnant and parenting students. Because again, it's these lack of protections that lead to the gap in graduations and transfers, and that lead to wage gaps for women. We recommend these two documents, and you can find them both on our website. The address is at the bottom. The first one is from the U.S. Department of Education, supporting the academic success of pregnant and parenting students. And it's a circular that's aimed at education professionals. The other one is Know Your Rights. And again, this is from the U.S. Department of Education, but it's aimed at parenting students so that they know their rights as parenting students and the protections that are afforded to them. A little bit more about CalWorks Pride. This is the statewide club sponsored by the CalWorks Association. That's meeting regularly now. And if you're interested in this, we recommend you Google an article called Queering the Welfare State. It really can help open your eyes about the heteronormativity which pervades the welfare and community college systems. If you're interested in the world of parenting students and CalWorks, our association sponsors a training institute or a conference every year. This year, it's of course being done remotely. We have some incredible nationally known keynote speakers, wonderful workshops, and about 500 people who will be attending this year. This is our 11th annual training institute. You can follow us on social media. Our handle is @WeAreCalWorks on both Twitter and Instagram. We have a website that's full of stories of CalWorks students in their own words and all kinds of resources. It's calworksassociation.org. And finally, our ask of you, everyone on this call, this is what we're requesting from you. Remember, CalWorks students and parenting students are an equity group. See if you can find the data about achievement gaps for parenting students on your campus. Do you even know what the data is for parenting students? Has your college examined these numbers and this population of students? And finally, we're asking every person here to start talking at your campus about parenting students and CalWorks in terms of equity. So we know everybody's talking about equity. It's the most important thing we need to focus on. But don't forget, parenting students are also an equity group, and they overlay many other equity groups. That's the end of our presentation, and we're happy to answer questions, or I think there's a discussion now.